My name is Randy Sheets. My beautiful wife's name is Lisa. We have 3 amazing kids. Our oldest just turned 3, and our youngest is a month and a half old. So we are knee-deep in caring for and loving on our little ones, and it's awesome. Me and Lisa lead a missional community right in our neighborhood. And so right where we live are the people around us who we're making disciples of, and we have 15 or so people joining us in that mission, and a lot of them are young people, young families, and so it's been fun this past year doing that with them. An MC Covenant for us is, as we've been moving forward with walking out, living a life with these people, we've been agreeing around, first and foremost, the good news of Jesus Christ, who he is and what he's done, and what that actually says about who we are. So we agree about the gospel. And then we work out, we agree, what is that actually going to look like, living it out day to day, throughout the week, month to month, year to year? What does it look like to actually live that out as we look to make disciples of these people in everyday life that God's calling us to? With creating an MC Covenant, one of the big lessons learned for me is not just having an annual covenant signing, but talking and working through the covenant, even like through the seasons that you enter into. The tendency has been in the past to talk about a year-long covenant that you sign in the beginning of the year. And what tends to happen, though, is you never talk about it again throughout the whole year until you enter into a new year. And so you kind of just sign and forget. And so it becomes this thing that you just check the block doing, but it doesn't really become a helpful tool to help you guys walk out who God's made you to be with a group of people. And that's really what we want the MC Covenant to be. It's a tool to help you walk out obedience to Christ and love of Christ and who he's made us to be, the good life, really. And so one of the big lessons learned is both thinking through MC Covenant as not just an annual thing, but a seasonal thing that you look to. And so I think in the beginning of the year, super important to say, hey, let's get around like why we do what we're doing. Like, what's the gospel? How does that make us into a disciple? What is a disciple? Let's get clear on that. Let's look at the Great Commission. Let's look at the Word of God. Why are we doing what we're doing? And then let's define our mission. Let's get clear. Who is our people group? Are we all on the same page with that? And then lastly, how are we all going to take a piece in that? How are we going to take, not just defining, not getting clarity on the mission, but how do we take ownership of the mission in light of the giftings and skills and resources we have? How do we get to enter in to join the mission? And so once a year, I think that's crucial to really kind of do a little bit more drawn out MC Covenant. But in addition to that, every new season provides a new opportunity to engage the culture that God's called you to. I mean, that's how it is for us. And so I think what could be helpful is as you get ready to enter into a new season, I think what I've learned is actually bringing the group together and just first looking back a little bit at the season you just left and saying, man, what are some evidences of grace? How's God been working in our community? Let's celebrate that. There's a lot of things we quickly run by and just overlook and don't give credit to the Spirit and don't celebrate. It's just gloom and doom, man. Things are always just not good, but there's tons to celebrate. So look back at that, but then also kind of look forward to the season ahead and recalibrate. Maybe there's some changes, some modifications that need to be made in light of what you agreed to the past season, because this new season offers, more opportunity to be outside and throw parties and barbecues. Well, let's change that up in light of the new season and agree to some things together and commit to that. And then I think finding out, doing that every season, by the time you come to the next year, I think you begin to see the MC Covenant as like a tool to help you be more engaged and have greater missional impact and effectiveness than it just being something that you check the block with. A main struggle I found myself in leading others through the MC Covenant process has been doing too much work, or sometimes all the work on the front end of creating a covenant. And what I mean by that is basically coming to the group of people saying, hey, here's what we're going to be doing for the year, for the season. Do you guys agree or disagree? If you agree, sign it. If you don't sign it. And let's move forward. And what that tends to do, unfortunately, one, it keeps people from actually having any sense of ownership on the mission. So you as a leader, you just created yourself in this little island, and it's all up to you, and it's all about you now. And you're going to have a lot of weight and a lot of pressure, and it's going to get tiring, taxing, and frustrating. You're going to get frustrated because people aren't doing what you hope they would do. But the reality is they're not, because they never had conviction or ownership in the first place and never had any time to process. And so they're just looking to you to do everything. It could be just really hard for any sort of discipleship fruit to really take place with other people, because they're just looking to you. The other thing that it does, it stifles the spirit to kind of develop these other people in the group and kind of grow their giftings and kind of help missional impact and fruitfulness. If it's just one leader doing the thing, it's going to limit the kind of giftings that really need to come out. The reality is the leader, we need others to join in on the mission, not just to take the load, but because they also have spiritual giftings that need to come out and that we need, that the church needs at the mission field, that the people that don't know Jesus need. And so it can stifle that if you do all the work in the front end. So having an MC covenant be a participatory thing within the group is very important and essential. God's blessed us recently with some really cool fruit in our missional community by really practicing this kind of seasonal approach to the covenant process. And I've been recently seeing the people in my missional community growing and seeing how they can actually join in on the mission, that they too have a role, though they're not deemed as the MC leader. They have a role in the missional community to play that's necessary, it's needed. And so I see that happen as we look back and kind of process the work of the Spirit, because a lot of times people overlook how the Spirit's working through the cracks of life, and through them, we kind of just take time highlighting that, praising God for that, and you just see the growing sense of empowerment that takes place in those conversations, that this awareness that the Spirit's in them and that God is using them, and it's important for the sake of the mission. And on the brink of that conversation, transitioning to the season ahead, it allows more opportunity for people to see that, okay, I got ideas that need to be said, that need to be shared. I can be a part of creating this, and God can use me to be a part of this group for the sake of making disciples. And recently, our most recent one, we broke up into little triads where they just used the framework of family, missionary, servant, and talked about different ways in light of our identities in entering into the new season we can engage our people group. And conversations were great. There were many. We all came together, and we created the covenant together, and super cool just seeing the ownership. And it's not that we're following through with everything, to be sure, but we're in it together, and we're learning from Jesus together, and that's just, it's cool. It's been really cool to experience that. I think an important takeaway is that the MC covenant is not this mere check in the block thing. It really can be a helpful tool to help us walk out what loving Jesus really looks like in everyday life. I mean, a guide that helps us take seriously the intentionality that I think is necessary in submitting our life to King Jesus, that obedience to him really is the best life. And I think annual seasonal covenant process is just super helpful in helping us as disciples be obedient to our King and experience the joy of giving our lives for the sake of Jesus and his mission instead of trying to consume it and hide it from the world. We need help. We need help doing that, just like we do with budgeting our money and using a budget for that, or a calendar, and budgeting our time. We need help holistically to call each other to make disciples who make disciples. And I think the MC covenant process is huge in helping us being intentional, following our King.